Here's a blitz out of the 3-3-5 split called middle blitz. You can see this is a cover zero defense, and if you look at it, when we say the word cover zero, basically means there is no deep defender playing the deep middle of the field. You can see there's nobody there playing the deep areas. That means what we have here is we have 5 defenders matched up in man coverage on 1 receiver each. And you can kind of see there's the 5 defenders. So we have those 5 guys matched up in one-on-one coverage. Now, when you run something like this, you run the risk of being beat pretty bad, especially if the blitz is picked up. Then you're going to wind up having some issues if these receivers are able to get open. But if you're able to get home real quick with it, then you have an opportunity to sack the quarterback and put the defense or put the offense on the back of its heels really quickly. So let's go ahead and take a look at this blitz, and we'll just kind of walk you through a couple different setups. And hopefully it's something that you might want to go ahead and use whenever you run the 3-3-5 split middle blitz. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now, the very first thing you're going to look at, for me personally, we're just going to run this defense without doing anything at all and just kind of go through it and just kind of take an idea and see what happens here without doing anything. And you can kind of see where you wind up getting the pressure. It winds up coming from that linebacker, winds up shooting through the A-gap as you look at your screen there. So let's go ahead and look at it real quick, and you can kind of see where the pressure is coming from. And you can see that it's going to come from this linebacker right here, who's going to wind up shooting through the A-gap unblocked. Now, the reason that is the way this offensive line blocks this year is because what they wind up doing, they generally wind up crashing down, and they wind up going ahead and blocking a little bit differently as far as on the offensive line. Let's go back in here and just talk about this. Well, actually, you're not going to see it so much on this one because they're going to wind up blocking to the outside as far as the tackles are. You can see the tackles blocked to the outside, so that changes things up on this particular blitz. So it allows that A-gap pressure to come through from this linebacker, winds up shooting through this A-gap into this area here. He comes through here, and he winds up applying the pressure through the A-gap. Now, with that said, let's go back in here again and do something a little bit different with this setup and just take a look at it. And you'll see what I mean about what I was just talking about earlier with this offensive line blocks this year. A lot of these type of blitzes that you're seeing, especially a lot of these A-gappers where guys like to bring their guys up into the A-gap and bring them right through and shoot through the thing. What they've done this year is they've kind of improved the way the offensive line does things, at least as far as to the inside, but then it winds up leaving to the outside, allowing to get more pressure. So either way, it's kind of you wind up taking away the inside stuff, but then you wind up not having the outside protected as well. So let's go ahead and look at it here. What we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and pinch the linebackers and then pinch the defensive line. So you can see me, I pinched both. Everybody's being pinched right now. Now sometimes, and this is what just happened there as you look at your screen, this linebacker is going to sneak back up right here. He's going to sneak back up and line up behind the strong side defensive tackle, which is fine because that's what we want to happen. Now, next thing we're going to do here is we're going to take control of this guy right here, and we're going to go ahead and blitz him at any point. Now, keep in mind, if you wanted to, you can globally hot route him to blitz where you don't even actually have to take control of him. You hit your RB button or R1 button and then press left on the right stick, and it'll get him the blitz. Either way, it doesn't matter as long as you give him the blitz. And what we're going to do is we're going to move him inside in this area here. Now, at that point, we're going to go ahead and call bump and run man coverage. Now, you can kind of see we got kind of the same setup that we showed earlier, and we're going to get the same type of pressure with that middle linebacker. Generally, he'll be the one that shoots through. On that case, it winds up coming from that other linebacker. Now, the one thing about this defense, and I was going to mention it, is that sometimes what you're going to wind up seeing is a lot of pressure wind up coming from – you're going to wind up seeing the pressure coming from one of the ends. Even though you think you got it set up where you're going to look like you're going to get A-gap heat, it might come up from one of the ends or from like a linebacker or something like that. Let's go and run it again, same thing. And that's the thing with this one is that I can't really specifically tell you what linebacker is always going to come from. It may come from this linebacker. It may come from the middle linebacker. It may come from this end, which is it could come from any one of these 3 guys. Basically, it could come from this guy here, or this guy here, all depending on how the offensive line blocks. So let's go back into it one more time, and we'll take a look at it. And it really depends on how the offensive line blocks, and that really ultimately decides on who's going to bring the pressure on here. Let's go ahead and do the same thing again. We're going to pinch the linebackers, pinch the defensive line, bring this guy to the inside, re-hot route him to blitz. This time we're going to bring him up into this gap right here. Now this time with this setup here, I've also seen it come from the strong side defensive tackles. That's the other thing too. There's a lot of different guys that winds up getting pressure on the quarterback. We are going to call bump and run. So when you look at this one, we wind up having a bunch of defenders all stacked up inside here. We have this guy, this guy, this guy. Literally have 6 guys all inside the box right there, all crowded up. And ultimately, someone's going to wind up getting the pressure. This time it winds up coming from the left end. So someone's going to get the pressure on the quarterback. Now, of course, the halfback staying in the pass block. Let's take a look at that real quick as we run through this. Okay, you can see that he winds up getting that pressure. It's, as I said before, the way the offensive line's blocking this year, that's what happens here. Let's go from this angle here and take a look at it. See how that right tackle slides in? Here comes the right tackle. He's sliding in. He's going inside here to block all this pressure, and then therefore there's no one out here to block this guy. He's coming right off the edge clean. And that's why I said, okay, this is not really a nano in the sense an A-B gap type blitz, but that's still pretty quick heat right there. I mean, the quarterback, by the time he's getting to his drop, he's taking about a 7-step drop, he's already sacked. By the time he gets his feet plant right there, he's got his feet plant, bam, he's down on the ground. So to me, yeah, you take away the inside heat, but on the other hand, you allow the outside pressure to happen. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Now let's go ahead and leave the halfback in the pass block. This is called play with the back staying in the pass block. Let's just run this slants play. And that back is blocking to the right. So we're going to go and do the same setup we've been doing. We're going to go and pinch the linebackers, go ahead and pinch the defensive line, go ahead and take control of the right outside linebacker, bring him back inside, and then we're going to have this guy right here. And we're going to go ahead and call bump and run. So the setup basically is to pinch the defensive line, pinch the linebackers, take control of the right outside linebacker, bring him in, line him up as close as you can next to the right end, and then if you got time, go ahead and bring that linebacker up, which is this one right here, which is going to wind up being this middle linebacker, bring him up into, basically stack him up behind the weak side defensive tackle, and then go ahead and call bump and run if you want. And you're looking to get that outside pressure. This time it wind up coming from the strong side defensive tackle. Even though the offense had the halfback stay in the pass block, we still wind up getting some nice pressure on the quarterback. So this one definitely brings some heat. I just can't tell you from who. That's the thing. I just don't know who. Here he comes. Halfback picks him up. Actually, it winds up coming from the other linebacker winds up actually hitting it. Sorry about that. It winds up coming from the left outside linebacker. So, as I said before, it's really hard to tell who's going to bring the pressure. I just know that someone, every time I've ran this one, for the most part in the time I've labbed it, that someone's going to bring in. You can see that the halfback goes out to go ahead and make his block on this guy right here, but then no one picks up this guy as he comes through the gap. And this guy right here, which is this right tackle, doesn't slide in, or isn't fast enough to make that block. And by the time he does try to slide in, the quarterback's already sacked. So this one's called the 3-3-5 split middle blitz. I wish I could tell you definitely who's going to bring the heat on this one. Just know that someone is going to get in there generally every single time to put pressure on the quarterback. I guess the beauty of that is your opponent just doesn't know who to block. So in years past, he could kind of look at this setup and say, hey, this guy's going to be the one that gets it. So this is where I need to go ahead and set up my pass protection. With this blitz, you just don't know who's going to bring in the pressure. Something else I want to point out while we're in here. Actually, really can't do it since the ball's already been. Let's go ahead and punt the ball back real quick. This is something that I normally do when I lab, so you get a kind of an idea how I like to lab anyways. What I'm doing right now, since I'm practicing on this one particular team, I'm trying to show this blitz, then I just go ahead and punt the ball back and forth. Also, I've already mentioned this before. If you're going to lab, make sure you turn off the fatigue, turn off the injuries, turn off the clock, turn all that good stuff off. And honestly, I probably should have set this clock a little bit more. Right now, for this particular game, I set it for 5 minutes. Generally, I wind up setting it, if I remember to, generally I try to set it for at least 15. Generally for 15. That way I got the whole game, basically almost an hour worth of labbing I can do just sitting here in game mode, going back and forth between both teams and just kind of going over the playbooks on both sides of the ball and giving me an opportunity to look at all the blitzes and stuff like that. Let's go back into this 3-3-5 split while we're here and take a look at this middle blitz. And again, what I want to show here is, actually, let's call timeout here because I want to show something else. The kind of a scheme with this that you could do. Let's just run another blitz out of here, and not actually a blitz. Let's find another play. Let's run this cover one defense right here. Because what I want to point out is stuff that you may want to do whenever you go ahead and set up your schemes. This would be another example of something you might do. So you're going to go ahead and do the same setup, right? And then you're going to, this guy, see if he comes up. If he doesn't, you may have to bring him up manually. And in the same way with this guy here, you may bring him up. And then if you got time, you have to bring this guy up here. That way you're looking like you got the same setup that you just had. Even though this isn't a blitz, you got that same setup. Heck, you might even want to do something like this. You may want to maybe put this guy in a curl flat. Maybe go over here and put this guy in a curl flat. And you get a coverage looking like this. So a little bit different in the sense that your opponent thinks you're running that same blitz, but now you got like a coverage type man coverage with some zone behind it. So that might be something that you consider doing as well. So a lot of different things you can do with this. Of course, the pass is completed, but at any rate, that's some stuff you can do whenever you run this and go ahead and try to scheme around some of your defensive schemes that you might want to run to go ahead and try to confuse your opponent. This one's called 3-3-5 split middle blitz.